This is the Gauntlet Podcast, episode 91. I'm Rich.
I'm Kate.
I am Lowell.
And I'm Jason.
Oh, man, you brought it down this time, Jason. Huh. It hurts. Well, here we are at our rotation for the monthly discussion of games we played with the Gauntlet community. I will lead us off talking about a surprise game of Powered by the Apocalypse.
Ooh.
Not Apocalypse World, though. And not Fate. It's not Fate. It's Spirit of 77. So this was my first time running Spirit of 77. I got pretty excited about it after having Dave Kizia on for the Plus One Forward episode. I didn't really know much about it. I was a child of the 70s, so I wasn't sure, if I really wanted to delve back into childhood type stuff. And the game is really cool. So you roll with advantage. Instead of a plus one forward, breaks my heart, but no plus one forward. You roll with something extra or something less. Other than that, and the fact that you build your playbook, so there's no set playbook. You take a roll and a story, you combo those, and you get moves from both sides, which I've seen in a few other games. It's an interesting variability you get out of that. It's pretty much, a lot of the moves are very similar to what you find in most of the Apocalypse Engine games. So when I ran Spirit of 77, I spent hours listening to music from specifically 1977, prepping, finding pictures. Spirit of 77 is one of the few PBTA games that actually the producer, they have published modules, pre-done fronts with characters attached to it, and it's usually 2 campaign frames, or you can maybe like a 1-shot, 2-shot type deal, and then they'll also put in a new role or story. They have a series of these, and I picked one of those up because I just want to make sure I kind of got it right, because it's not just a new game. It's a new game. It's got a few different rules tweaks. I had a very excited group that wanted to learn it from me, so I really wanted to take the heavy lifting off my shoulders, right, and have a pre-done frame to it, which is contra to the way I normally run a PBTA game that I'm much more comfortable with, with Legend of Five Rings, Masks, Apocalypse World, Monster Hearts, those kind of games. I come in with maybe a loose general idea, let people make their characters, and kind of as they generate those characters, they're going to feed me a lot of hooks. I'll follow them around for a little bit, introduce a few things that they've brought up in their backstory. Well, I come in with Jukebox Villains, which is one of the 2 stories. The other one was Beast Bound and Down in this double feature that they came out. And in Jukebox Villains I thought it was a neat little hook. It starts off in a record store, so you could do a lot of 70s music. There's a fire, so you get to have not necessarily, open gun violence, which is what people would probably expect from a 70s action movie style game. So I thought it'd be a neat introduction. And I was all prepared for that. I even had picks for the characters that were being introduced, the NPCs that were part of the frame. Then the players arrive and they start talking about their characters. They create these hooks, they lace things in, and start creating this gang threat called the White Dragons. And man, was it hot. It was really, really good. Like, oh man, this is super cool. I could totally go with that thing that has nothing to do with Jukebox Villain and nothing to do with all my prep. And I took break after everybody made characters. It's a 5-minute break, little bio, and I walk around my apartment and I'm just trying to okay, what do I do? Is it go, no go? Do I go with Jukebox Villains? Do I roll with what they've produced? And maybe we go off script. Maybe we go out of the 70s milieu. Maybe I kind of lose myself a little bit. And I chicken out, guys. I went with Jukebox Villains.
Why?
I just wasn't super comfortable with the game, the setting, the time frame. I don't do much historical games, personally. Lowell, you had something? So Lowell played in the game, so he can give his feedback.
Well, in your defense, the other 2 things that were going on there were that you had a glam rocker as one of the characters, and that really slotted nicely into the record store thing. And also, that record store you described was awesome. I mean, the detail that was there was really solid, and it felt good. And I mean, I dug it. I know some people weren't as happy not having their hooks in that first thing, but I thought it was fine. And I see why you did it.
Yeah, I just wasn't comfortable. I had done this prep and I was really married to it. And I don't feel like I shoved it down their throats. Like, I did open questions, and once they came into the record store, allowed them to kind of create the space. We did some things where they got to show off some of the cool parts of their role or their story. So it wasn't a straight up module, right? It's a campaign frame that was pre-made. It was a campaign frame. I sound like I'm totally defensive now. But honestly, I felt like I chickened out. I'm usually really confident in my GMing, and I hit a wall. I was like, I don't think I can bring White Dragon and make sure everybody's going to have fun, and I'm worried that I'm going to do it outside of the time frame and not do it right. And it was fine. The first session was good. I think there were some really good moments. And during feedback, Roses and Thorns, sure enough, one of the players, I appreciate it, very honestly said, I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't get to play to some of the stuff we created early on in the game. And I took the feedback. I said, I hear you. I appreciate that feedback. And it is important, right? Because I would have talked myself out of that. Oh, yeah, well, I had a little moment. It's nothing. I would have told myself it was fine. Even though I knew in my heart I kind of chickened out. So course corrected. And I basically scooped out the second half of Jukebox Villains and filled in nothing but their hooks and nothing but their background and all the things that were leading to the golden record that was stolen and found in a safe and all these other aspects right up. It was the White Dragons. And here's Lowell's got a gumshoe and he's got some cops on the force. Those guys are in cahoots too. And it turns out that the rock star has like the silver sable guitar that makes a sound when there are vampires. Well, by God, there's a vampire who's behind the whole thing. You guys want your hooks? It's all your hooks. The hooks. And so it was good. It went really, really well. The second session, I felt more confident because not only did I have the setup of the Jukebox Villains, but I had their hooks coming in. And I spent the middle section of the game working really hard on two things at the same time. The first one was I wanted to keep amping up the tension and layering in the threats. I know not everybody loves Dresden, but like when I think of the Dresden novels, I love how like, here's another threat, here's a second threat, here's a third threat, and they all keep building on top of each other. And I don't read a lot of books, so that's my reference. And I love how at the end, everything comes to a head, and that's what I angled towards. So I was trying to ramp up the tension by layering in all the threats that were the backgrounds of each of the player characters. At the same time, I was cross-cutting hardcore. Arnold Cassell said this once, cut wet. And so I would get to a moment where you might flip a camera, and even if something wasn't completely resolved, like what is the most dramatic moment to cut out of this scene? Cut out of that scene, throw them right into the next scene. And so even though I had 3 concurrent scenes going, I was cutting so hard that nobody was sitting still in their scene for more than 5 minutes. And it was really humming. I mean, was it confusing? Like I felt like it was really going, but it's all in my head, right?
It clicked for me.
How did it come?
Yeah,
good.
Clicked for me.
Good. So all in all, I felt like it was a good comeback. I needed that. It's a craft, right? Playing games is a craft. That's why I love Roses and Thorns. That's why I try to make myself read GMing books. They're really boring because they don't GM the way I GM. But I think about it. I think about how people construct scenes. You watch cinema. You watch TV shows, and you look at the craft of telling stories. So I'm glad I failed. I'm glad I had that chicken out moment so that I can reteach myself something there. So that was my experience with Spirit of 77.
There was a lesson for me in it too. When you got to the Roses and Thorns at the end of that first session, and he was really honest and said that, that's the kind of thing I might not have said in a Roses and Thorns. That I might not have done that. And he looked at it, saw what he wanted, saw that it hadn't been served, and said it. And I'm not sure I would have done that. And it kind of kept me thinking about how I give feedback now, having seen that at the table.
I hear you. It may not have been the way I would have said that, but I really appreciate the message. And if you can just think about the content rather than the delivery, I was super appreciative. Pavel I love that he was direct. I love that he said, hey, here's the thing that we worked on, and I would have loved for that to have been part of this story, and it wasn't. That was awesome. Oh, and the last bit. So we got near the end, and I wanted to end with some epilogues. And Tim, awesome, he actually set up a sequel. He's like, this is too much fun. So during his epilogue, he's like setting up a sequel with aliens and vampires, and why not? Because it's Spirit of 77. So much shag carpet, guys. So much shag carpet.
I think it's awesome that you were able to get to that. You were kind of able to face that situation, right? I mean, I think there's a tendency to, I don't know, like, well, for one thing, I think there's a tendency for people to always like tell you the good things, like to always say like, oh, I love this, I love that, Kate and I talked about this, right? Like it's all about we validate, right? We're validators. I'm a validator, and so it can be a little like, oh, here's an honest critique, and like, how do I process that, and how do I deal with it? And I think you could have like I think like some people might have taken that critique and like been defensive about it or kind of butthurt about it, right? But I think it's awesome that you kind of made that course correction. And the sort of like smash cutting between like hot moments, between tense moments, between different groups of characters, such a great technique. It's so good. Like I love the aggressive smash cut. Like to me, it's like the best tool you have as the MC or the GM to keep everyone engaged, right? It's one of your best tools to keep everybody like really, really hyper engaged with what's going on, because it's only going to be a few minutes before it gets back to them, right? So yeah. One of the perfect times in a PBTA game that I've found is you cut right after a die roll, because there's going to be that pregnant pause where they need to look through their options. So you cut right there. Bam, you got an 8, you got 2 directions. Bam, I'm going over here. I'm going to talk to you. Yeah, I do that. Especially like in an action heavy sequence, I'll do that. I'll say, all right, let's just get that roll on the table. Okay, awesome, 7 to 9. Okay, let's put a pin in that. I'm going to cut over here and see what this person's doing. I have a slightly different pace for like a different kind of game, but like a more up-tempo game, yeah, I definitely like kind of I like to keep it moving around like that. I think it's really smart.
I tend to jump actually on a fail.
Oh, nice. You jump on a fail. Do you do that to buy yourself some time to think, or do you want to draw out their pain?
I do.
A little of both. Sometimes I usually have a hard move always lined up because I know my NPC so well. But yeah, if it's 6 and it's a fail and it's going to be a big one, I'm like, oh, and we'll be right back to you. What are you doing? Just because
that is delicious.
It's mean. It's mean, and I like it.
It's good.
It's good. I really like that.
So, Spirit of 77 note. In one of those modules, I am a named character in one of those modules. I don't know if anybody knows that, but I am.
Because you're from the 70s?
I am Jason. It's Jason and Nodi Cordova. We are a pair of suburban drug dealers, a la Lance and Shitnerface from Pulp Fiction. They were modeled after those characters, and I was given that distinct honor because I was one of the very first people to play test the game. Gauntlet Houston was one of the very first groups to play test it. So that was pretty cool. It's a cool thing.
That is cool, man. Congrats.
Yeah.
You get to be a drug dealer in a game.
And here's the sad thing, though. I haven't run Spirit of 77 since. I feel bad I didn't go do it. But ever since I've started playing online games, I feel a little uncomfortable running Spirit of 77 because I like the music playlist aspect of Spirit of 77, right? Like the DJ part. I lean into that really hard when I'm running that game. And I don't know how to do it online.
What is Spirit of 77?
Oh.
It sounds gonzo, but I have no idea what this game is.
I am terrible. Spirit of 77.
we actually have not. We've never really covered it on the show, so yeah, that might be a good move.
Well, yeah, Spirit of 77. Thanks for asking, Kate. I assumed that was not good. Spirit of 77 is a game set in Americana of 1977, where all of the action movies are mostly true. There are aliens. There are
vampires.
BJ and the Bear. There are truckers. There are people with guns. There are drug runners.
Like Shaft.
Everything.
Foxy Brown. Those kinds of movies. Like blaxploitation flicks. Grindhouse cinema. That's all like what Spirit of 77 covers.
Interestingly, we had 2 Europeans, and several times we had to stop to explain like terms that were very American. Like Rich kept referring to shag carpeting, and they're like, what kind of carpeting?
I'm so bad. Yes. That said, they really keyed in. Their characters were on point. Like, really, really great. One of them, the rocker, had a playlist. Like, he sang. He literally sang. It was awesome.
Like he sang like in...
He sang.
Wow.
He sang lyrics in character. It was amazing.
Wow.
Garrett
like he
was
RP'd the singing.
Amazing. He blew me away.
Wow.
He wrote
Garrett
up songs. He adapted
really
them. It was great.
Yeah, it was super good. Super good. That's Spirit of 77. Jason,
Yes.
I understand that you ate some potatoes recently, and they were mashed.
They were. So I got a chance to play MASHED, which is a Powered by the Apocalypse game by Mark Plemons. This was at Dreamation. It was in a game run by community member Shervin, and we had myself and good friend Shane Liebling and Meg Baker, and I didn't catch I don't recall the name of the fourth player, but in any case, it was a one-shot con game. MASHED is about a mobile hospital during the Korean War. It is inspired by the TV show MASH. I am not super familiar with the TV show MASH, and so I was kind of going into it really blind.
It's a show from the 70s.
It is a show
It's so
from the
good.
70s, that's right.
I know that one.
But it's about the 60s.
Right.
It's a show in the 70s. Oh, boy. Okay, so it's Powered by the Apocalypse. I got like a Night Witches vibe in the sense that it has like a 2-phase play structure. The first phase is like a surgery phase, or you can be in like a sort of surgery. It's almost like a mini game, really. And then the other phase is like life at camp. So we see the characters decompressing, having hijinks, just doing, sort of relaxing type things or getting supplies and whatnot. So it's a little bit like Night Witches, a little bit like The Watch in that way. That seems to be something of a trend ever since Night Witches of PBTA games to have that sort of like 2-phase structure, which I think it's interesting how people are exploring it in different ways. Apart from the surgery phase, it's a pretty straight down the line PBTA game. Like the camp life stuff is really like what you'd expect. Like the moves are it's real basic 2d6 plus stat. It has all the sorts of moves you would kind of expect. It's got a couple of little interesting things that kind of emphasize humor, which I think is pretty cool. Like you can do a move where it triggers if you do a cutting remark or a witty, a little witty riposte or whatever. So that was pretty cool. But otherwise, it's pretty straight down the line. The surgery phase is the really interesting bit here in terms of like discussion. It's unlike anything I've ever done in a Powered by the Apocalypse game. Our table was made up of just doctors and nurses, and so we could all be involved in the surgery phase, which is why Shervin picked those specific playbooks for us to use during the con game. We were basically divided up into two sort of like surgery centers, like two principal surgeons, and then they had like other characters who were sort of like supporting them both, and the GM has bodies. It's what's called meatball surgery, which is a term that was explained to us on the day of the game, but I don't remember what it means. But it has something to do with like fixing up the soldiers. I'm not sure what the meatball aspect of it is. Oh, I think it's like you're just trying to save them. Like, so if that means you cut off their leg or cut off their arm, then so be it. But you're just trying to save the body, right? But anyway, so the MC has these sheets with diagrams of bodies on them, and all around these diagrams are tons of clocks. So there are like clocks for the major organs, and then clocks associated with the limbs of the body. And as you're engaging these surgery mechanics, you're having to make decisions about what you're going to save and what you're not going to save. And it was pretty interesting. It felt very gamey in the sense that there wasn't tons of like actual role play going on. It was really a lot more about like just rolling dice and making decisions. I do think that we would have done more role playing if we had acquired more mastery of the little surgery procedure. I think that was part of it. Like we were so busy just trying to like master it and make sense of it. And I got the feeling that if we kept playing, that we would have introduced more role play into those scenes. But as it was, as we did it, it was just a frantic like dice rolling exercise of like ever ramping tension and poor young guys having to have their limbs cut off to save them, right? Like it was that kind of thing.
Yikes.
Everybody at the table agreed that it felt tense. It felt hectic, chaotic even. And it overall felt good. I think we ended those surgery scenes feeling like, oh, this felt intense. It felt hectic. It felt chaotic. I would have liked more role play, but that's just kind of my disposition on stuff like that. The camp life scenes, though, are totally different. Like the camp life scenes are like decompressing, you know. I have to go get supplies. You know, I have to go like continue my romance with a nurse. I have to go get involved in hijinks. I was playing a very like comedy forward character. I was really emphasizing like hijinks and comedy, and it was fun. I mean, we had a really good time. Like we were telling a very, very sort of small story in the camp, you know, about trying to requisition an incubator and having to do some like deals with some locals to get these incubators. But then there were other things that kind of happened that, you know, people were doing things to kind of like subvert the characters trying to get the incubator. And it was just kind of like a, you know, kind of a little gonzo funny thing. And it was great fun. But then we would occasionally go back into surgery and we're back into this like gruesome, you know, like bloody surgery thing. And so it was just that constant flip flop throughout the session. I am told that replicates the show pretty well. I'm told that's what the show is like. And so in that sense, I think it was a success.
Yeah. My memories of MASH were very much that, like the hard realities of surgery and then lighthearted moments around that.
That surgery phase is really interesting because Night Witches does it, because you're saying The Watch, and I was working on something for doing people who work bomb disposal in like the Blitz and trying to figure out how to do that and then the decompress things outside of that. So I'm going to take a look at that because that sounds like it has an interesting set of mechanics there.
It was really interesting. I mean, I didn't have to make a lot of the decisions because I was a nurse and I was helping the two surgery tables. Like, you know, so basically all I could do is really just do like assist roles essentially with them. But the doctors who were doing the actual surgeries, like they had to make like legit decisions like, oh, am I going to, you know, like if my only chance of saving this kid is to go ahead and just cut off their leg, am I going to do that? Well, yeah, I'm going to do that, you know? And the tracking the little clocks all over the body was interesting. Like I didn't get to experience any of it because I wasn't the MC and I wasn't the decision-making surgeon. It all just seemed very chaotic to me, but we came out the other end. I mean, like we got to the result at the end. And I think the hecticness, you know, Shervin was led to believe that the hecticness, the chaos of the situation and of like kind of dealing with the mechanics of it is part of it. It's supposed to feel, you know, like it's supposed to feel hectic. It's supposed to feel like that, right? To sort of replicate the environment of being in a, you know, a sort of like high triage surgery situation, right? But yeah, so it was an interesting little dichotomy, just that, you know, just that back and forth, that tick-tock of really, really frantic, hectic surgery stuff, sad, sometimes surgery stuff, mixed with like these more lighthearted, you know, camp life things. It was cool. I'd play it again. I really thought it was really neat. I think it's a game that wants to be played in multiple sessions. You know, I feel like in one session, there were lots of things we didn't get to explore. There are certain aspects about like, you know, it like Night Witches that I think where like kind of tracks the war a little bit, you know, like different duty stations and stuff like that, and that we didn't get to see. And I'm also told that there are playbooks outside of the doctors and nurses, so you can be, you know, drivers or soldiers or whatever, right? There are other positions. Shervin had picked certain things because he wanted us to have a certain kind of experience. But it sounds like you can get there's a really full story to be told there, right? Like looking at all different aspects of the MASH camp.
And it's not a playtest; it's an actual available thing, right?
I think it's like I think it's at the printers. Like I think we were playing basically the final version. So yeah,
okay,
yeah, that's what I'm led to believe. But overall, really cool. I kind of missed it on Kickstarter. It was not really on my radar, but I'm probably gonna pick it up once it's available widely.
I'm pretty excited that MASH was a successful Kickstarter. I'm really looking forward to the Happy Days PBTA game.
A game made a show made in the 70s about the 50s, right?
right. And I'm hoping for a Joni and Chachi spinoff that will fail on Kickstarter. That's what I'm hoping for. Cool. Jason, anything else you want to share about MASHED?
No, I don't think so. I really enjoyed it, and you know, I just kind of wanted to do a little capsule review of it because we haven't covered it yet on the show, and so yeah, people should check it out. It's really interesting.
And MASHED is available on DriveThru RPG, so it is.
There you go.
Cool, thanks, Jason. Lowell, so you wanted to talk about World Wide Wrestling last month, and I said no.
Yep.
I want to hear about it later when I've had a chance to play some more. So talk to us about your crazy Worldwide Wrestling extravaganza here.
So this, as I mentioned before, runs the risk of becoming my mask game, the one that I repeat and keep talking about every time I'm on.
You're just throwing shade back and forth about your.
Yep, there we go.
He's totally got me back. It's awesome.
So I said I was going to do this last year because I really like Worldwide Wrestling, and we've done 8 weeks of Gauntlet League Wrestling on Sundays. It's been 6 players in each session. We got nice shared document. Over that time, over the 7 weeks that we've done it so far, we've had 16 different players and 18 different wrestlers.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
RIP to Candyman and Cyborg Destroyer. It's solid. It's a good solid 3 hours, and we've been getting these strange fan videos from another guy, the Hooded Luchador, who does commentary on
crazy.
So that's pretty cool. Amazing emergent stories. This is what I wanted to see because I'd run it once or twice, in sequence, but to see it over a span, to see that come and change and things get added. I love the development of the hooks. I love the way we get callbacks to earlier events. I love even the arc of dramatic changes because David came in as the Candyman and he was a clown. And then Jason killed his character in a dream sequence. And then he came back as another character and hit really well. And it was just, it's felt so good. So much fun. Great twists. It's one of those things where PBTA, when you put your fate in the hands of the dice, you get those weird twists and you have to go with them. And that's really been nice. And I think I'm getting better, and players are getting better at that collaborative fighting, that ballet that you described, that back and forth. And that's really fun to see because it really is collaborative improv and playing off of each other, and when people are in sync, you can tell. Also, it's like every session I'm desperately holding on for dear life. I mean, I come in, I've got my new t-shirt. I've had a new t-shirt each week, wrestling t-shirt. I've drunk a lot of coffee. I try to bring that energy there, but I am just holding on, trying to change the booking and get things in and throw things around and get everything set and get everybody to have their scenes and throw the stuff. And whew, I love it. But after I'm done with these 8 weeks of this game, it's going to be a number of months before I even think about doing this again. The last positive is having the videos up and sharing them has generated a number of new people for the Worldwide Wrestling RPG. They hadn't heard of it. They've gone and gotten it, or they had it, but they hadn't had a chance to play it. And a couple of them have gone and found games. Edwin, I think, has at least 1 or 2 of those people in his wrestling promotion. So that's exactly what we want out of these videos and these things being shown to people, that they can get that experience.
I agree 100%. That's been one of the happier outcomes of putting these videos up on, well, they're on your channel, but then I playlist them on our channel, on the Gauntlet channel. But one of the really happy outcomes of having the videos up is, they were never going to be, we're going to get 1,000 views or 10,000 views. Like, it's never going to be that, right? But what it can be is a really terrific marketing tool, right? Like, it's a really, really good tool to say, wow, don't you want to come play with us? Don't you want to play this game? Like, or doesn't this interest you? It's been super great. Like, we've had a couple people show up who I've never even met before, which is awesome, like player wise. And that's been really cool. I want more of that, like I want more ways of like kind of putting like our games out there, as a way of saying like, come do this, come look at this, come participate in this. Yeah, that's been a really, really neat outcome.
Yeah. There are a couple of things that have been challenges that maybe I didn't anticipate when we first started this. One of the things, of course, is scheduling. We've been lucky that I've managed to only have 2 sessions where we were down a person, which I think is incredibly good for a Sunday morning game stretched out over 8 weeks.
Yeah, and you're not asking for like 3 or 4
got 6 players. I know.
You are insane. Like, I don't even know how. It's no wonder you white knuckle fury there.
That's a lot of players.
And you've got like tag team matches with announcers and run-ins. Dude, oh, it's chaos. I love it.
Yeah. It's hard, but I love it. I do love it. There are a couple of mechanical things. If you know Worldwide Wrestling, doing it this way and doing it online and switching up the schedule means that the normal way that the promotion actually gets an advancement, and that's important because that resets the player's audience, comes at a certain level when everybody in the group who's in the active roster meets a certain criteria, a certain level of audience. But because people are switching out, we don't hit that number. So what I did was after a couple of sessions, I took that number down 1 each time, and then we hit it and we reset. The other thing is, of course, that because we are switching out, we have a very strange heat map, essentially a relationship map. So I've tried to add in a few extra questions from time to time to build that and to start each session with that a little bit to reinforce the interactions between the players. And I think that's a real challenge to having a variable roster. I also think I haven't done a great job because we are getting so many different wrestlers with so many different gimmicks. I don't know their moves. And I even have the cards, the cards with the references on them, but I'm running, so I don't want to stop and look them up. So it does mean that we do get that pause when people make a move, and then we have to resolve it. And here's the thing. Because of the nature of Worldwide Wrestling, we can't do what you do in Spirit of 77. I can't just cut at that point because we got to resolve that move before we can go on.
Right, yeah. In your defense, Lowell, I will say that game has a lot of fucking moves. I will never master Worldwide Wrestling. Like, just the basic moves. Yeah. There are so many. And there are lots of them, and they're not like big ticket, like intuitive things like investigate or act under pressure. They're like really specific things related to tag team stipulations or whatever, right? Like, so that game has a fair amount of overhead, I feel like, mechanically. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's just definitely, I think it's different. For sure.
And none of the moves are symmetrical,
right?
So they all do very different. They have very different triggers, and they yield very different results. There are a couple of things, if I run this again, I will do is emphasize run-ins as a possibility and doing run-ins as a thing at the end of a fight and doing face and heel moves after a fight has been concluded, because we haven't gotten that as much to the table. And people calling for particular matches, like I want it shot at the belt, or I want to do against this person. Those are things I will emphasize or think about how I'm going to emphasize the next time I do it.
Next time, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, but late in the year. But man, here's the thing is when I said to Jason, I think I want to do this. And Jason was like, oh yeah, you should do it. And then I was like, okay, I think I will. This has gone so much better than I could have imagined.
Good. I'm glad you feel that way. Yeah.
Awesome.
The players are great. Everyone has been dynamite, and it is exactly what I wanted, and I'm loving it. So, yeah,
awesome.
Worldwide Wrestling.
Awesome. I've dug it. I mean, Rich and I both have played in it. I'm having a great time. I don't get to play very often, for one thing, so that's kind of fun. And then also, the game is kind of perfect for me right now because there are big, huge blocks of time where I can just kind of watch, and not have to be involved. And so that's been actually surprisingly refreshing for me. There've been moments where I'm just kind of sitting back and just enjoying watching other people play. And there's a certain pleasure in that, right? And it felt kind of good to not always have to be on all the time. But when I was on, I was ready to be on, I was ready to give 110%, and I had a good time because Worldwide Wrestling is one of those games where I don't mind showboating, normally I like to be very sort of giving with the players and try to be a little bit more let's all just have scenes together. Let's all do this together. But in Worldwide Wrestling, for whatever reason, I suspect it's the theme of the game. I want to just be big, and I want it to be me, and I want it to be my thing, and I want to showboat, and it feels right. It feels like the right thing to do, and I really enjoy that.
Got to go big, and I love everybody's big because they don't have that. They get a chance to, sell who they are in action and in word, and they get to yell at the audience who they are, and I love that. The one other thing I want to say is, if you watch the videos, you will see several sessions where there are people who really know wrestling. Joe Zantek and my friend Matt Andriano and a couple other people, they know wrestling. And there are a bunch of people there who do not know wrestling at all. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Everybody is with it. Nobody feels like they're left behind. They all do the stuff. That's great because, it's just it democratizes all
really
of
does.
that in a way that I just love. I think Nathan's got a brilliant game, and it's so fun to see in the big scale.
Absolutely. It's been a hoot. I've been glad I've been able to sneak in on a few of those sessions. I've recently signed up for a few, and then you had somebody who wasn't able to make it. So I after first character dying, I was able to bring in a new guy, and that was so fun.
So good.
Anything else you wanted to say about Worldwide Wrestling?
No, I think I did my 20 minutes there.
Called my shot. Well, let's go ahead and take a break and hear about our sponsor.
This episode of the Gauntlet podcast is being sponsored by our friends at Nocturnal Media. So listeners, Stuart Wick, who owns Nocturnal, is also the brand new owner of Asgard Games in Houston. And if you're in Houston and you're a fan of the Gauntlet podcast and the games we cover, you're going to want to get to Asgard and check out their product selection. Stuart has added a lot more role-playing game stuff and particularly a lot more indie role-playing game stuff to the mix, which is pretty awesome. The last message I got from Stuart, in fact, he told me that he was presently surrounded by shelves that had games like Night Witches and Fiasco and Microscope and Dread on them. So go check that out if you're into indie gaming and you're in Houston. Also at Asgard Games, Gauntlet Houston, which is our face-to-face group and kind of where we got our start, they are running Blades in the Dark on Sundays now out of Asgard Games. And so that's something you might want to keep your eye on because we might be doing even more games out of Asgard, which would be pretty cool. So yeah, if you're not in Houston though, and you want to support the show by supporting Nocturnal, go check out their website. We'll have a link in the show notes. So let's get back to the show, and thanks again to Nocturnal for sponsoring us.
And now it's time for Giving Me Life. Unfortunately, Kate had to drop off, unable to finish up with us. We apologize for that. So we will kick off Giving Me Life with a thing that you may have heard last year around this time. When I say what's giving me life is spring training, baseball. Spring training has begun this past Friday.
I'm going to be checking my messages over here. Someone just wants to give me a hand signal when it's my turn to talk. I'll go ahead and do that.
Oh, no, Rich, please tell us about the sports ball.
There's the sports ball of the baseball. So baseball spring training, I love it. I especially love it because I live in Florida. I'm within a few hours driving distance from a number of teams. I grew up a Yankees fan, so the fact that I'm 4.5-ish hours away from Tampa Bay means that I am going to be going to watch the Yankees play. I love just hopping on 95, going down and watching the Nationals play at the Astros Park. Atlanta Braves play at Disney, and it's a really great, fun, very family-friendly game that they put on. My parents are coming down this year for a whole weekend. We're going to try to see 3 or 4 games just with them. So it's a great month. March is really fun for me, and the games started already. The Friday there were 6 games, and my MLB at Bat app refreshed. I have the ability to listen to any and all games, audio only. I don't worry about the TV. I just will listen to the game like old school radio. And I love it because you can switch between, if you have Homer announcers, right, you can listen to the feed for one team versus the other. And that's super fun. Or if you are bilingual, you can listen to it in Spanish, which is kind of cool. Wow. And spring training, baseball, the end. All right, Jason, what's giving you life?
Awesome. I watched the Oscars last night, and the Oscars, like they are most years, but especially this year, were pretty boring. They're very long. There were no surprises for most of the ceremony. It's mostly just an excuse for my partner and I to sit there and be catty about like people's hair and outfits. And I was ready to basically turn in when that big Best Picture snafu happened, right? I'm sure everyone's heard about this. The reason why that, so in case you haven't for some reason, if we're breaking this news for you, basically Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty were presenting Best Picture. The stage people gave Warren Beatty the wrong envelope. They gave him the duplicate envelope for the Best Actress announcement. And so they stood up there a little confused, and Faye Dunaway saw La La Land and just announced that as Best Picture. It turned out to be actually Moonlight won Best Picture, and so there was some like drama and confusion and stuff in the final minutes of the telecast. The reason why it's giving me life is because I've gone back and watched this like so many times today. I've watched it a bunch. I've been watching like blow by blows. I've been reading all the like sort of backroom chatter, like the TikToks of how it went, and like the he said, she said of like, oh, what really happened or this or that. There's, you know, it has this like sense of mystery about it, you know. It's really compelling. It has this sense of like, it feels historical, like it just feels like a gigantic clusterfuck of epic proportions, but it's also really trivial, you know. Like it's at the end of the day, it's like not super important, you know. So I think just the fact that it's giving me all these like weird mixed feelings. There's a bit of Schadenfreude there, you know, because you know, there's something about like, you know, Hollywood elites kind of like taking it on the chin a little bit, you know, which is kind of interesting. And I mean that in a fun way, not like in a, you know, spiteful way. I don't know. It's just really been like, it's just been such a weird experience. And I've been really like wrapped up in it today. The one last thing I'll say, kind of adding to this sort of like just surreal sort of milieu surrounding this event, is there was like this really interesting symbolism that I picked up on like after I went back and watched the tape, which is the stage was filled with a bunch of white people, right? Minus John Legend, you know, up there accepting this award for La La Land. And then like we had this weird anticlimactic real winner announced, you know, for Moonlight, which is a picture largely produced and starring African Americans. And so we had like all those people move off the stage. We had all these African Americans go onto the stage. It was a movie about queer African Americans, which was really interesting. That part of it's not giving me life. But it's just like it felt just so weird and surreal, you know.
Add to that that rather than letting them actually get to the microphone, Warren Beatty, the voice of white progressivism, has to stand there and apologize and not let them actually have their scene yet. He has to get his word in.
It felt that way, right? Like it just had, it was like the moment just felt so loaded, you know? Like I remember when Brokeback Mountain did not win Best Picture, okay? Because that movie was really important to me personally. Like when it came out, like this was a movie where I took people to see it who like, you know, this is in Texas, mind you, where I lived, who had no sense of like gay people or gay identity, you know, like it was like brand new thing to them. And so we watched Brokeback Mountain and people's minds are being changed and people are crying and like everyone just knew that was going to be the best picture that year. And then when it didn't win, you know, like I had this like really, you know, it felt crummy, you know, it was like, oh, it sucks. Like it sucks that like this movie wasn't, you know, I mean, it wasn't chosen. And so now this year, in the political climate we're in, we have this movie about like queer Black, you know, young men win Best Picture, but they don't get like the big moment, you know, like they don't get the big moment, and like their story was like overshadowed by the snafu, you know. So it's giving me life, not in a totally positive sense. It's just in more of a sort of strange historic / symbolic sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's giving me
something. I don't know. It's giving me something. Yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that thing about Warren Beatty, Lowell. I think that's really astute because it was all that, right? Like it was all of that was like in play in my brain, you know.
Yeah. And then Jimmy Kimmel has to come in and
Oh, and then Jimmy Kimmel's like, I wish you could, why don't you just keep it? We could all win. And I was like, oh my God, like, shut up, dude. Like, I get it. The situation, I know you try to be your best in a situation like that. I will give kudos though to the producer of La La Land. I'm trying to imagine myself in that situation where this thing that I've wanted my whole life probably, or been thinking about my whole life, where I get to get the Best Picture Oscar, and it just gets snatched away from me like that, like being the bigger man in that moment. That's really something. That's really something. I mean, on that stage, that's really something. So that person deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I lied. Kate's back with us. Kate, what is giving you life?
So there's this app you can get. It's called What Your Hero Smells Like. It's based on romance novels. I really dig it. So my friends and I last night spent our whole night putting in all of our RPG characters and finding out what they smell like. So everyone knows my favorite character is my hunter chosen Robin from Monster Hearts, who then transitioned into Urban Shadows. And she smells like axes and fate.
Yes.
It really delighted me. Apparently, I also smell like magic markers and luck.
That's true also.
Okay.
Should throw that out there. Confirmed.
Right? Like, it's so accurate.
Hey, can we do that right now?
Great.
Do you have that pulled up, Kate? Can we do this?
I can find it
Is that a
really
thing?
quick.
Like, we should all pick a character and see what our thing is on the air.
I posted it in the Gauntlet Slack so that everyone can do it. Oh, yes.
Oh.
I'm never
His hero smells
going to find it in
like.com.
there. So
There you
okay,
go.
so
Everyone,
Hero
find out what
smells
your
like.
hero
all right,
smells
so
like.
we should all choose a character right now. And
All right, I'm going to choose Justice.
I'll do
Magic.
my Fall Magic guy too. Since we didn't get to talk about Fall Magic because you weren't with us, we will. What was my guy's name? Do you remember?
Caspian?
Caspian.
Oh God. My character from Rich's
Oh my God!
Mask game.
Oh my
Mirror.
God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
Do you smell like storms at midnight?
No, for Caspian, I got thunderstorms in Paris. Now Paris doesn't make any sense, but thunderstorms. Oh my God, that's like perfect because he was the heir of Stormguard.
Just so everyone knows, it's herosmellslike.com so that everyone else can enjoy this.
What were the rest of them?
Justice smells like whipping cream and envy.
Oh,
Wow. Wow. Lowell, you said you used Mirror from the Masks game we've been playing?
Yes, I got Dry Leaves and Pride.
Ooh.
What does that even mean?
And I tried to think of a character I played recently, but I didn't do Yori because I just don't want to know. But I did Ember, who is an avatar of the Phoenix, and she smells like bacon and wreckage.
Wow.
Just so everyone knows,
appropriate.
Yori Mitsu smells like cedar chests and the Arctic.
Oh,
You already know this?
I was
Holy
born.
cow.
Oh, that is great, Kay. Thank you for sharing that
That's
with
giving
us.
everyone life.
It is now. It is now. Lowell, what is giving you life?
Okay, so I have to do something visual, and I will put a link to this picture in for you to put it in the show notes. I'm going to show you guys this. Can you see that image that I've posted?
It'll come up. Oh, wow. That looks cool.
This is why I love my
What is
wife.
this corkboard?
This is her investigation board that she alone has put together for one of our campaigns. That
What?
This is just the start of it. She made me put these, tracking boards up, and she's written all this, and she got some index cards now that have graph paper on them, and it's crazy. I love my wife so much, and just going down there and looking at this in the basement just gives me life. So
Is that Noirlandia?
no.
just so people know, it's like a cork board with a bunch of index cards
It's
with
a serial killer board.
pictures. Yeah, it kind of is with
Yeah.
strings connecting them and things. Yeah.
It's a long-running campaign. The different colored cards are the different factions that she's been trying to track, and then there's some NPCs on the left-hand board, and she's trying to associate them. She's got string and stuff.
So cool.
It's awesome.
That is really, really cool.
Yeah, I adore her. So that's giving me life.
You're a lucky man. Okay, we're going to go ahead and call that a wrap. Thanks, Kate, for the designated hitter action that you threw our way with This Hero Smells Like. Thank you so much, Jason. Where can people find you if they want to chat with you?
I Twitter at Gauntlet RPG. It is the Gauntlet Twitter, but it's also just me as well. And I'm always on G+.
Cool. And Lowell, where can people find you?
My blog at Age of Ravens, and I also tweet at EDIGE23.
Cool. All right. And if you want to find out more podcasts from the Gauntlet, please come to Gauntlet- or Gauntlet-RPG.com. If you've got a little bit of money, you'd love to participate in Patreon that we have ongoing, you are more than welcome to find that. It's linked on the Gauntlet RPG site. We have other podcasts, including Plus One Forward, which is all about PBTA games. You can also listen to Discern Realities, all about Dungeon World, and we also have this comic strip AP thing, which is totally worth your time if you want to check out all kinds of different indie games.
It is so hot. I wish people would go listen to comic strip AP. It is so freaking hot. The stories are amazing. The production values are amazing. Yeah. It is an entertainment. I stand by that. Like, it is an entertainment. I look forward to each new episode. So go listen to comic strip AP.
Agreed.
Yeah, I love it. It to me, it's like Dark Horse Presents or an anthology, and every month, right, you're going to get a few different stories, and they're all told in different ways, and then, of course, they're different systems. It's just great. I love seeing all the different approaches towards a one GM, one player method of playing an RPG and recording it for an audience. It's really good. Really, really good.
I'm super proud of it. It's just, the quality level is just bonkers. I mean, it's just really high quality. Like, I would say, like, give us 10 minutes and we're going to give you drama. We're going to give you horror. We're going to give you tension. We're going to give you all that stuff. We're going to give you the game too. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome. So please do check that out. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We appreciate it, and have a good evening. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This is the Gauntlet Podcast, episode 91. I'm Rich.
Did we establish who's saying that?
I thought Jason was next.
We did not.
No, it should be Kate, then Lowell, then me.
Are the 70s like a super popular time? I played like 3 games at Dreamation that took place in the 70s. I don't know anything about the 70s, and I've just concluded that people really like it for a reason I haven't figured out.
I don't really understand.
What's with the 70s?
It's a universal cosmic sort of question, right? What's with the 70s? I don't know.
What's with it?